start this film guide to those places linked with Pope John Paul II in the city of Krakow, a city which is written in capital letters in the Polish Pope's biography. Let's start by walking down Kanonicza Street, where the Karol Wojtyła Archdiocesan Museum is located. We can see here, amongst others, the room in which Karol Wojtyła lived and worked during the years 1951 to 1967. That's where he lived when he was a student at the university at Professor Różycki's place. He later stayed there as a suffragette bishop and later as an archbishop. He liked Kanonicza Street. His friends, especially young people, could easily find him there. When Karol Wojtyła went to Rome for the consistorium to be made a cardinal and be awarded the cardinal's hat, Chancellor Kuczkowski decided to move him from Kanonicza Street to Franciszkańska Street. When Karol Wojtyła returned from Rome and started heading for Kanonicza Street, the chancellor told him, No, you're going to be on Franciszkańska Street now. And that's where he spent, here on Franciszkańska Street, almost 20 years.
Na Franciszkańskiej 3 został duch Jana Pawła II.
The spirit of John Paul II has remained at 3 Franciszkańska Street, especially in the Archbishop's Chapel, where he was ordained a priest and which later became his private chapel. Whenever he could, he would spend time there, praying for the diocese and all his intentions. But he didn't just pray, he also worked in the chapel. The chapel became his workshop. It was the place where he worked on himself, on his spirituality. This was where he sanctified himself. He didn't become a saint in Rome. He was already one here. This place is linked with his sanctity, with his contemplation, and his maturing to the point that he could fulfill later tasks. This home and this, the bishop's palace, were landmarks in his life. This is where he lived every time when he later returned to Poland as Pope. Crowds, especially young people, would gather under his window in the evenings. He would speak to them, and the young people would ask him questions. It was a great pleasure for him to meet with people in such a fashion. Those dialogues went down in history. I can mention one interesting fact about those times. John Paul II spoke about this window after the first time he spoke from there, when there were a lot of young people. What are they going to tell their parents? That the Pope speaks to them from a window?
Wasi rodzice, że ten papież po oknach chodzi. Błonia.
The Błonia, or Krakow Commons, was always a place where people could take a walk and relax. But when John Paul II came to town, it took on another dimension. It became a place where people, where the nation was confirmed, that is, they received the sacrament of confirmation, where there were wonderful sermons, beatifications, canonizations. That's why this place should never be subject to a desacralization.
Krzyż Nowochódzki.
The cross in Nowohuta and the first Arka Church are important places in John Paul II's biography. If one wants to obtain a deeper understanding of John Paul II's apostolic activity and character, he can't omit Nowohuta. At the end of the 1950s, Bishop Karol Wojtyła took up the fight to construct a church in Nowohuta, which the communist authorities initially agreed to, but later rescinded their authorization. The life of the parish was thus concentrated around a large cross that was erected in the middle of the construction site. When the communist authorities decided to take down the cross in 1960, mass riots broke out. Finally, in 1967, Bishop Wojtyła obtained approval to build the church. That's how the Ark of the Lord parish, a place of worship where we can see the cross that the inhabitants of Nowohuta defended, came about.